News just broke that members of the US military committed literal war crimes on the express orders of Pete Hegseth. And the details of what they did and what he ordered them to do are so bad that it is now all but certain that Americans will be prosecuted for these crimes. Earlier today, the Washington Post reported that in September, Pete Hegseth explicitly ordered SEAL Team 6 to every individual aboard a boat off of the coast of Venezuela. Hegseth was very clear at the time about his expectations. He didn't want any survivors left alive. But after the smoke had cleared following the initial missile strike, at least 2 survivors could be seen clinging to the wreckage. And that is when this man, Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, ordered a second strike to ensure that the survivors were also. But fun fact, that's a war crime. You can't double tap survivors. And all of it was captured on video. A video that the Pentagon is now refusing to show to members of Congress, despite a bipartisan request from the Senate Armed Services Committee for them to do so. And just imagine how bad that video has to be if they won't even show it to other Republicans. And here's the thing, y'all. The Trump administration argues that the United States is now at war with the cartels, and that as a result, the use of lethal force in the form of missile strikes is totally legal, y'all. They have to argue this, of course, because the president would otherwise be ordering extrajudicial attacks on civilians, which is illegal. But by framing these strikes as happening within the context of an armed conflict, Trump might have protected himself legally, but he also ensured that service members are beholden to a set of legal standards that Pete Hegseth is ordering them to disregard. And as a result, those service members can now be prosecuted for war crimes. International laws for armed conflict, which the US military obviously has to follow, dictates that enemy combatants who are seriously injured can't be executed. Essentially, the instant that it becomes clear that the person you're fighting, your opponent, has no way of fighting back, you cannot them. You can capture them, you can prosecute them, but you cannot them. In other words, all of the legal framework that the Trump administration has spent months building around themselves to give Trump the right to order those strikes, yeah, that framework does everything to protect Trump himself, but it does nothing to protect the service members carrying out the strikes. And some of those service members are now going to learn the hard way that I was just following orders don't mean jack shit when you're the one on trial, friend.
Hey guys, how you all doing? Welcome back again to another episode. Thank you so much for clicking to watch this video. So guys, we are going to be checking out this video compilation which I was able to gather for you guys. Feel free to watch them and share your thoughts, your opinion. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section. Please don't forget to give it a like and don't forget to share this video to whoever that you think that need to see this video.
Member of the West Virginia National Guard Sarah Beckstrom is dead and another Andrew Wolf is in critical condition, and the question the entire country should be asking is, why did a man who spent 10 years working under the command of the CIA in Afghanistan drive 3,000 miles across the country, leaving his wife and 5 children to execute these 2 people outside the White House in broad daylight? The question is, who is Ramanullah Lakhanwal? In 2001, this man was 5 years old as the United States invaded Afghanistan. He would spend the first 10 years of the occupation watching and the final 10 years of the occupation fighting alongside U.S. soldiers under the direction of the CIA. You can do some quick math there. That means he was starting his involvement as a soldier at 15 years old. He was part of a Zero unit, which began as a counterterrorism pursuit team. The overwhelming majority of these forces were recruited, equipped, and trained by the CIA, and they operated directly under their command. And like these, also had the capacity to call in U.S. artillery and airstrikes as they saw fit without direct oversight from U.S. forces. So they were the ones making the call. So if it was a residential area, they could call in an airstrike and there really was no pushback. The problem here, as you can probably imagine with paramilitary forces like this, is the US could use them to do things that we could not officially do. For example, if the Taliban came into a residential area and pressured people at gunpoint for food and Afghan intelligence found out about that, they could relay that to this group or the CIA, and they could then use these men to call in airstrikes from those residential areas or go in at night, break into houses, and execute people. According to Human Rights Watch, that is what these men did over over and over again. This also applied to medical staff in areas that were disputed. So if the Taliban came into a clinic and said, treat our men, and those people did that, these people would often come visit that clinic later on. Documented cases of these men executing civilians in March 2018, December 2018, October 2018, the list goes on. In a 2019 report, Human Rights Watch summed it up by saying these men used extrajudicial executions, enforced disappearances, indiscriminate airstrikes, attacks on medical facilities, and other violations of international humanitarian law. In February of 2020, Donald Trump negotiated directly with the Taliban, said he would free 5,000 of their prisoners, and gave a withdrawal date of May 1st, 2021. With that date, Donald kicked the can down the road to Joe Biden, who pushed it back but took U.S. troops out in August of 2021. One of the shooter's childhood friends in Afghanistan said that the work he did for a decade shattered him psychologically. After our 20-year occupation of Afghanistan, we started Operation Allies Welcome, where we took 76,000 people that had helped the United States and brought them over here. Wall was one of those people settling in Bellingham, Washington in 2021 with his wife and 5 children. He would apply for asylum and receive it in April of 2025 under the Trump administration. It represents as a horrifying reminder of the United States meddling in another country, and now Sarah is dead, 20 years old, and according to her ex-boyfriend, had no idea what she was doing in Washington, D.C., standing around. 2 people had no business being in Washington, D.C., and now one life is ended and another man is fighting for his life. This happens the day before Thanksgiving, when the entire country is about to come together in a day of peace. The question that needs to be asked is, why did this man who hated the Taliban and spent 10 years fighting against them do this? This man whose unit was eventually folded into the NDS, which is Afghani intelligence, as they continue to fight against ISIS and the Taliban. Why does he leave his new life and spend 2 days driving to do this after spending 10 years fighting against people that he viewed as extremists in his own home? The options are all incredibly bleak. The first one is a psychotic break from spending 10 years fighting against his own people, starting as a child soldier. The second option is he is following voluntarily an order from within the country. The third option is he is involuntarily following an order from within the country. And the fourth option, which makes no sense, is he is voluntarily following an order from outside the country. The United States needs answers. Andrew and Sarah's families need fucking answers, because nothing about this makes any sense. The really horrifying thing is these people never should have been there standing around in Washington, D.C. doing nothing, and now this will be used to push more Islamophobia, to push fear of the left, and to push more U.S. soldiers into cities where they are not needed. When it comes to this man, we need answers as to what in the hell happened.
The FDA has just admitted something that it never publicly acknowledged before, and it could rewrite the way that vaccinations are done here in the United States, and I need to break this down for you. We're getting this information due to an internal memo that was leaked. It actually was published by PBS and put online. The memo states that the FDA's top regulator is pushing for far stricter vaccination approval processes because, according to the memo, COVID-19 vaccinations were linked to the deaths of 10 children. With the FDA now saying they're going to be re-examining the annual flu shot policy and reconsidering giving multiple shots during a visit. According to this regulator, they're saying that these 10 children got the vaccination and then somehow got myocarditis. With the regulators saying this is a new profound revelation, and so the agency will now recognize these deaths to be tied to COVID, and that if anyone disagrees with them, they should resign now. But experts are pushing back against this, saying in this memo, it doesn't mention the ages, nor medical histories, no manufacturer names, and no explanation how this even goes together. With one expert saying that this is very dangerous, adding that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and there is none in this memo. And other former FDA officials are kind of chiming in, saying these new rules could slow down vaccination development nationwide, which could ultimately make us sicker with time. The bottom line is, in order to understand whether or not a vaccination actually caused the death of 10 children, you need to do everything from autopsies into full investigations, provide a list of information so that other scientists can study it and actually see if what is being said is actually true, and we just don't know that right now. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated, though, if this does go into effect, if these vaccinations will take longer, if any of these rules change. So please do share this video and follow me for more.
And then stay with me now, unless you voted for Wig, then you need to be on the next bus straight to hell. Wig and his cabinet of combs have decided to re-examine all green cards issued to foreigners across 19 countries. Now, you're probably asking the question, well, what does that mean for me as an American? Nothing. But if you beige, tan, khaki, any of that shit, you in trouble. And then Wig and Brush and Bobby Pins and Curious George and them said that they're making America affordable again. Mind you, eggs are $12. Meat so damn high, we just gonna start slapping cats and dogs on the grill. Hide your pets, so I don't care. At this point, if the Chinese can do it, so can we. Now, German Shepherd ribs everybody. And then LeBron James might be aging more gracefully than a crackhead. You should not be able to play basketball this damn good at 41. And then it's been 10, 11 months, baby, and we're still talking about some I'm proposing cutting income tax. Ho, if you gonna bust a move, bust it. You gonna do it, do it. And then this also doesn't have shit to do with the news, but Burger King, ho, if you don't stop telling me to pull around for my total like it's some type of mystery, like it's a secret, it's gonna get real spooky if I get to that window and I ain't got it, huh? And then it's getting dark. I'm gonna go ahead and go inside, but Wig said nurses and shit ain't professional no more. I don't know what that means, but I know goddamn what. When I go to that hospital, if I don't see a nurse, Wig gonna need a doctor.
This Trump supporter is trying to claim that every single Starbucks is moving out of New York because of Mamdani's policies. Take a look. A bunch of accounts have posted this TikTok saying Starbucks has announced they are closing every single location in New York City after Mamdani tries to tax the rich. Then they say, well, it looks like you'll be taxing nobody because everyone is leaving. But readers quickly added context here, saying this claim is misleading. Starbucks did not close every NYC store because of Mamdani. The company announced 34 NYC closures in September 2025 as part of a nationwide restructuring that predated Mamdani and is unrelated to his proposed millionaire tax. Claims like this go viral because they fit a pre-written narrative. Rich people and big companies are leaving liberal cities. It doesn't matter to them that New York City is still one of Starbucks' largest markets, or that there are hundreds of stores still open in New York City. All that matters to these people is the storyline that progressive policies are causing a total collapse. But of course, we all know this could not be farther from the truth. Blue states are the ones that are subsidizing red states. And it does not make sense for anybody who's not a multimillionaire to be advocating against taxing rich people just a couple of percentages more.
The United States can unilaterally terminate the deal if Malaysia signs agreements with anyone else the U.S. considers a problem. Malaysia also agreed to cut or eliminate tariffs on U.S. ag and chemical products, and to buy a bunch of planes from Boeing. This provision goes even further. If the United States enacts import restrictions on a third country, Malaysia needs to do the same at the U.S. request. The opposition parties in Malaysia didn't waste any time. It's a surrender. The Malaysian PM, Anwar Ibrahim, went to Parliament to explain just what he agreed to, and said that it is not a surrender or betrayal or colonization. The Malaysian Trade Minister, Mr. Aziz, also went to Parliament to say that the export ban on Malaysian rare earth is still in effect. There may be some wiggle room for them legally, in that a memorandum of understanding probably doesn't carry nearly the same weight as a trade agreement that passes the U.S. Congress or the Malaysian Parliament. But it's clear that the Malaysian administration is saying either that the language in the MOU is not what the opposition parties claim, or that they don't have to follow it anyway. Either way, we should expect that Beijing is very likely to step back from any investments in Malaysian rare earths until the Malaysians themselves figure out just what they signed up for with Washington. Remember that Malaysia has plenty of rare earth ores, some of the richest deposits in the world, but they lack the technology to go after it in a major way, and they were reaching out to China to do that. They banned the exports of their ores to induce foreign companies to come in and help them develop the industry. For their part, China has banned their exports of the equipment and technology to do that work. So an agreement between Beijing and Kuala Lumpur would strongly imply that Chinese equipment and engineering expertise will go into Malaysia in return for access to the finished products. There are some concerns here from the Chinese side that predated the Malaysian PM signing the trade agreement with the United States. Is there enough raw material in Malaysia to justify big Chinese investments, along with environmental issues that could shut down the project later, after China spent billions of dollars turning them on? But now there is another, even bigger one from China's point of view. If Malaysia just signed an agreement to give the United States right of first refusal on rare earth magnets and materials coming out of Malaysia, the deal with China is probably dead on arrival. Chinese regulators have gone to a lot of trouble in China to make sure that their magnets aren't headed the Pentagon's way. Now Malaysia may have just agreed to hand over theirs instead, after Chinese firms and engineers and equipment did the work, making them ready for export. Several days ago, the Malaysian PM met with China's premier and urged the investments from the Chinese side to move forward as if nothing happened. But the problem is the language of the MOU itself and whether this thing is legally binding in any way. Because if that language is in there, Malaysia is legally obligated to prioritize rare earth sales to the United States. Even worse, Malaysia may be legally obligated to seize Chinese equipment and technology in Malaysia and hand it over to American companies if similar policies are enacted in the United States that require that. There's a saying in American politics that if you're explaining, you're losing. The Malaysian PM is hard put to explain to his own parliament why the deal he just signed is not a surrender of Malaysian sovereignty, is not a betrayal. And he did not just agree to allow the Trump administration to colonize the Malaysian mining industry. If he's having trouble explaining this deal he just signed to his own people, he should expect companies here in China to be a much tougher audience. This is Kunming, the Ferris wheel. Be good.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you all for your love, for your support. Thank you for always coming back to watch my video. Like, I really do appreciate each and every one of you. May God bless you and meet you guys at every point of your needs. So what do you guys think? Please comment down below, and don't forget to give it a like so that more people can also see this video. Don't forget to subscribe in case you haven't subscribed already. So you stay tuned and see you all in my next episode. Bye.